The desperate call. The emergency beacon cut through space like a scream in the darkness. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the Terran Embassy's communications center, watching the holographic display flicker with desperate messages from across the galaxy. The Zephyrian transmission repeated endlessly, each loop growing weaker as their homeworld died. Please, anyone who receives this message. The voice belonged to Chancellor Vexthera, the Zephyrian leader whose crystalline features were cracked with exhaustion. Our world burns. Our people fall. The void swarm consumes everything. We have tried diplomacy, tried reasoning, tried fleeing. Nothing works. We beg for assistance before our entire species becomes extinct. Sarah's hands trembled as she forwarded the message to Earth Command. The Zephyrians were traders and scholars, a peaceful race known throughout the galaxy for their poetry and mathematical discoveries. They had never harmed anyone, never taken what wasn't freely given. Now they were dying. The Galactic Council had been debating for 3 standard days. 3 days while millions of Zephyrians were consumed by the mechanical parasites known as the Void Swarm. Sarah had attended every session, watching representatives argue about jurisdiction, resource allocation, and military protocols, while an entire civilization crumbled. Her secure terminal chimed. Admiral Catherine Stone's weathered face appeared on screen, her expression grim. Chen, we've received your reports. The Council isn't going to act in time, are they? No, sir. The Altarian delegate is demanding a full environmental impact study before any military intervention. The Proximan representatives want assurance that no trade routes will be disrupted. By the time they reach consensus, there won't be any Zephyrians left to save. Admiral Stone was quiet for a long moment. Behind her, Sarah could see other officers moving with urgent purpose. Something was happening. Sarah, I'm about to tell you something that exists at the highest classification levels. Are you prepared to carry that burden? Yes, Admiral. Project Nightfall. Have you ever heard that designation? Sarah searched her memory. The name sounded familiar, like something glimpsed in half-redacted documents. I'm not certain, sir. 20 years ago, after the Titan War nearly destroyed the inner colonies, Earth faced a problem. We had created soldiers, scientists, and specialists who were too dangerous for civilian society, but too valuable to simply eliminate. Men and women who could win impossible battles, but could never be trusted around innocent people again. The pieces clicked together in Sarah's mind. She had heard whispers, rumors in dark corridors about prisoners who weren't really prisoners, about a ship that traveled the void carrying Earth's most terrible secrets. The Purgatory, she whispered. You know it then. Good. That saves time. Admiral Stone leaned forward. Conventional forces won't work against the Void Swarm. They adapt too quickly, learn from every engagement. But there are people who might be able to help. People who think in ways that make no logical sense, who operate outside any predictable pattern. You want to release them. I want to save the Zephyrians. And these individuals might be our only option. Deep in the void between solar systems, the prison ship Purgatory received a transmission it hadn't heard in 2 decades. Activation codes cascaded through its security systems, each one verified by quantum encryption that couldn't be faked or forged. Warden Collins had been expecting this day since she took command 15 years ago. She walked through corridors that housed Earth's most dangerous citizens, past cells containing people who could never be allowed back into normal society. The first cell she approached held Marcus Rivera, though most people who knew that name were dead. Ghost, they had called him during the resource wars. He could infiltrate anywhere, kill anyone, disappear without a trace. He had once walked into a fortified bunker containing 200 guards and walked out alone 30 minutes later. The guards were never found. Marcus looked up as she approached, his dark eyes showing no surprise. He had known this moment would come. Finally decided to let the monsters out of their cage. The galaxy needs monsters, Rivera. Question is whether you still care about anything other than yourself. In the next section, Dr. Ava Blackwood sat surrounded by holographic displays, working on theoretical problems that would never see practical application. She had been humanity's most brilliant geneticist until she began experimenting on living subjects without consent. Her work had saved millions during the plague years, but the method she used had horrified even hardened military officials. "Doctor, we have a situation that requires your particular expertise." Bava looked up, her pale eyes calculating. "Let me guess, something that can't be solved by normal ethical methods. Something that can't be solved at all, unless we're willing to cross lines that decent people won't cross." 3 cells down, Captain Rex Morrison sat in meditation pose, his massive frame perfectly still. Bulldozer, they had called him. He had been Earth's finest military commander until the Ganymede incident, when he chose to save his men by sacrificing an entire civilian colony. 40,000 civilians died so that 200 soldiers could escape. Mathematically sound, morally unforgivable. "Rex, we need someone who can make the hard choices, someone who can sacrifice anything to complete the mission." Rex opened his eyes, studying the warden's face. What kind of mission requires a war criminal? The kind where failure means extinction. In the final cell of the section, Luna Park worked at a simple tablet, coding recreational programs for the ship's entertainment system. She had once been Earth's most wanted cyber terrorist, the woman who nearly collapsed the entire planetary network in an attempt to expose government corruption. Her methods had been sound, her intentions noble, but her actions had almost caused the collapse of human civilization. "Luna, we need someone who can turn technology against itself. Someone who understands that sometimes you have to break the system to save it." Luna's fingers never stopped moving across the screen. "Finally found something you can't handle through proper channels." Within hours, the 4 were assembled in the Purgatory's briefing room, studying holographic displays of the Zephyrian crisis. The void swarm had consumed half the planet's surface, converting organic matter into more mechanical parasites. Traditional weapons had proven useless. The machines learned from every attack, adapted to every strategy. Marcus studied the tactical displays, his mind automatically identifying weak points and attack vectors. Conventional forces failed because they're predictable. Military doctrine, standard operating procedures, logical tactical progression. The swarm learns patterns. "What about unconventional forces?" Rex asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. "Chaos," Dr. Blackwood said simply. "The one thing machines can't predict is true chaos. Random behavior that serves no logical purpose. Actions that contradict self-interest. Strategies that make no tactical sense." Luna looked up from her coding tablet. "You want us to be so crazy that even alien machines can't figure out what we're doing?" "I want you to be human," Warden Collins replied. "Humans are the only species in the galaxy that actively chooses courses of action that serve no evolutionary advantage. You fight when you should flee. You sacrifice when you should preserve. You create when you should destroy. From an outside perspective, humanity is completely insane." The stealth ship Reaper's Edge launched from Purgatory's Bay 12 hours later. It had been designed for missions that couldn't officially exist, crewed by people who weren't supposed to be alive. As they approached Zephyr's Prime, the scale of the devastation became clear. The planet's surface writhed with mechanical growth. Vast crystalline structures stretched toward space like grasping fingers, each one pulsing with stolen life energy. Beneath them, the remnants of Zephyrian cities glowed like dying embers. "Beautiful world," Marcus observed, studying the tactical displays. Or it was. Dr. Blackwood ran biological scans of the swarm structures. They're not just consuming organic matter. They're analyzing it, cataloging it, learning from it. Every species they encounter makes them smarter, which means they've never encountered humans before, Luna realized. We're a complete unknown to them. Rex studied the defensive positions around the swarm's primary hive structure. They've adapted to energy weapons, kinetic weapons, chemical warfare, even biological attacks. But they've never seen human tactics. Through the viewports, they could see Zephyrian refugees fleeing in small craft, their crystalline bodies dim with fear and exhaustion. Children pressed against windows, looking back at their dying world with eyes that held no understanding of why this was happening to them. "Those people down there," Marcus said quietly, "they've never hurt anyone. They spend their lives creating art and solving mathematical theorems. And they're going to die because some machine decided they were useful raw materials." Something shifted in the ship's atmosphere. 4 of humanity's most dangerous individuals looked at the innocent beings below and felt something their crimes had never quite destroyed. The desire to protect rather than destroy, to create rather than consume. "So what's the plan?" Rex asked. Marcus smiled, and for the first time in years, it wasn't a predator's expression. "We show them what happens when monsters decide to be heroes. Unleashing hell." The Reaper's edge descended through Zephyr Prime's atmosphere like a falling star, its stealth systems rendering it invisible to swarm sensors. As they approached the hive structure, the true scale of the mechanical parasite became apparent. It stretched for hundreds of kilometers, a writhing mass of crystalline growths and metallic conduits that pulsed with stolen life energy. Dr. Blackwood's instruments detected millions of individual swarm units working in perfect coordination, each one sharing information with the collective consciousness. They operate like a hive mind, but more sophisticated. Each unit learns from every other unit's experiences instantaneously, which means they know everything about every military engagement they've survived. Rex observed, studying the defensive patterns, every failed attack strategy, every weapon system, every tactical approach. Luna's fingers danced across her interface, probing the swarm's communication network. Their data sharing is their strength, but it might also be their weakness. If I can get into their network, I might be able to turn their own coordination against them. Marcus had been studying the hive's structure through tactical displays, his infiltration instincts identifying potential entry points. They've adapted their defenses based on conventional attack patterns, but they've never seen someone who attacks by not attacking. The ship settled into a concealed position among the wreckage of a Zephyrian research station. Through the twisted metal, they could see swarm units methodically harvesting the last organic materials, converting everything into more mechanical parasites. "First, we need intelligence," Rex said, taking command as naturally as breathing. "We need to understand exactly how they think, how they process information, how they make decisions." Dr. Blackwood assembled a collection of sensors and biological analyzers. "I can determine their physical vulnerabilities, but their psychological ones might be more important." "I'll handle infiltration," Marcus said, checking his equipment. "Get close enough to observe their behavior patterns directly. And I'll start probing their network architecture," Luna added. "Map their information flows, identify critical nodes." 6 hours later, Marcus materialized in the center of the hive complex like a ghost given form. His enhanced stealth systems had carried him through security patterns designed to stop armies, not individuals who moved like shadows and fought like smoke. The interior of the hive pulsed with alien activity. Swarm units moved in perfect coordination, each one performing its designated function without hesitation or inefficiency. They had converted Zephyrian technology into something unrecognizable, crystalline computers that processed information at impossible speeds. Marcus observed for 3 hours, his enhanced memory recording every detail. The swarm's perfection was stunning. No wasted motion, no redundant effort, no emotional responses. Pure logical efficiency in mechanical form. But efficiency could be a weakness if you knew how to exploit it. He returned to the ship with intelligence that changed everything. "They're not just predictable," he reported. "They're completely predictable. Every decision follows logical parameters. They can't conceive of actions that serve no tactical purpose." Dr. Blackwood looked up from her biological analysis, "which means they've never encountered something like this." She held up a small vial containing what appeared to be ordinary bacteria, human gut bacteria, modified with some of my more creative genetic techniques. "It serves no useful purpose except to exist and multiply." "What does it do?" Rex asked. Nothing. That's the point. It exists without reason, spreads without purpose, changes without logic. To a mechanical mind that requires everything to serve a function, it's completely incomprehensible. Luna had been working on something equally chaotic. I've mapped their communication protocols. They're beautiful, actually. Perfect efficiency, no redundancy, absolute logical structure. Which means they'll have no idea how to handle this. Her screen displayed what appeared to be random data streams. Carefully crafted nonsense. Messages that contain no information but follow proper communication protocols. It's like speaking grammatically correct sentences that mean absolutely nothing. Rex studied their accumulated intelligence, his strategic mind processing possibilities. They adapt to logical threats, but we're not going to be logical. We're going to be human. The swarm began to shut down as their collective consciousness overloaded trying to process the impossible. Units across the planet stopped functioning as their shared intelligence collapsed under the weight of trying to understand humanity's beautiful, terrible chaos. By sunset, a void swarm was in full retreat. The mechanical parasites that had conquered a dozen worlds fled from a single planet because they couldn't comprehend the minds that defended it. Rex found Marcus sitting on a hilltop overlooking the hive complex, watching the crystalline structures collapse as the swarm abandoned them. Hell of a dance back there. My grandmother taught me that one, Marcus replied. Never thought it would save a planet. Dr. Blackwood emerged from the ruins carrying samples of swarm technology. Their adaptive capabilities are remarkable, but they have a fatal flaw. They assume everything serves a purpose. They can't process true randomness. Luna joined them, her tablet displaying messages from across the galaxy, words spreading fast. The Altarians want to know if we can help with their crystal plate problem. The Proximans are asking about their robot uprising. Apparently, everyone's got a crisis that conventional forces can't handle. In the distance, Zephyrian ships began returning to their homeworld. Crystalline beings emerged from hiding, their bodies beginning to glow with renewed hope. Children who had known only fear started to explore the ruins of their world, already planning how to rebuild. Think they'll trust us now? Marcus asked, watching a group of young Zephyrians discover flowers growing in the wreckage. They don't have to trust us, Rex replied. They just have to know that when the monsters come for innocent people, humanity sends bigger monsters to stop them. The Reaper's Edge departed Zephy's Prime 3 days later, carrying 4 individuals who had found something they thought they'd lost forever. Purpose. Redemption. The knowledge that their terrible skills could be used to protect rather than destroy. Behind them, the Zephyrian homeworld began to heal. Ahead of them, the galaxy held countless worlds where civilized beings faced threats that civilized solutions couldn't address. They were monsters, all of them. War criminals and terrorists, murderers and madmen. But they were human monsters, and that made all the difference. Because when the darkness comes for the innocent, sometimes you need people who understand darkness better than anyone else. Sometimes you need individuals who have stared into the abyss so long that they know exactly how to fight it. Sometimes you need humanity's worst to become the galaxy's best. The end of their journey was just the beginning of their legend. Across the stars, species that had never heard of Earth would learn to whisper one phrase when faced with impossible odds. Send for the humans. Send for the dangerous ones.